Hey guys, I am super excited to bring you a video showing VMware ESXi running on a Raspberry Pi 4 with 8 gigs of RAM. Yes, that's right, the little Raspberry Pi. If you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe and give it a like if you enjoy the content. So I had seen this, actually, a viewer of mine told me that Virtually Ghetto had a blog post on it, and I went over there very quickly, and they give a description on how to do it. So there's a link for the Fling, and you're going to need a couple of files from this. You're going to need the PDF, and you're going to need the ISO file. So the ESXi ARM ISO file and the Fling PDF for the Raspberry Pi. You're going to need to download those. You're also going to need the VMvisor ISO file. This is the actual ESXi. It's super small, but that's all you need because it's a Type 1 hypervisor. The document also shows you on step 3.2.1 that you need to download the official Raspberry Pi firmware, the latest version, and also the UEFI software. You can click on those two links and it'll automatically download it. Or if you're actually going to go out there, this is what you're going to look for. You're going to look for the zip file, download that, and download the UEFI firmware right here. You're also going to need the Raspberry Pi software. Now we're going to need this to upgrade the EEPROM, and you'll see that in the steps coming up. Once downloaded, these are the 4 files you're going to need to make it happen. If I double click, it's going to launch Keka on my Mac and it's going to unzip. I will speed this up for you so you do not have to sit around and watch it. You should then go and unzip all of the other files. And once we're done with that, we're going to be ready to go. And we will burn with Etcher our micro SD card with the Raspberry Pi OS on it. So I started up Etcher. I'm going to select Image. I'm going to select the Raspi OS Buster ARM F image, and I will then select the target. Now, the target is the 16 gig storage. That's important because you don't want to overwrite any of your operating system. It'll generally show in red things that are bad. Click Continue. You're going to click Flash. You're going to have to enter your username and password. And I will speed this up significantly so you do not have to watch it go. So it's going to flash and then it's going to verify. And I will have in the description below all of the links for the URLs and all of the links for any of the things I've used in this video. So keyboard, thumb drives, whatever it may be. And we're finishing up. It's validating. And then once it's done validating, it's going to eject, and then we're going to take the micro SD card out, and we're going to be inserting it into the Raspberry Pi for boot. Now that the Raspberry Pi image is written to the micro SD card, eject it, take it, insert it into the Raspberry Pi 4. And we will just be doing a boot off of it to change the EEPROM and to get it up to date. Off camera, I plugged it into Cat5 Ethernet. It's going to repartition the SD card to take advantage of the full size of the SD card, and then it is going to boot into the desktop. And we're going to go through a couple of setups. As I mentioned before, make sure you use the desktop version, but not the one with all the apps, because when you do the update, it's going to update the apps and we don't care about them. We're just doing a couple of command line things. So click Next. I'm using my Logitech keyboard. Link is going to be in the description below. Love that thing for Pi devices. Sorry about the focus racking on this. I do get it cured, but you're going to have to persist with that just a little bit. We're going to click Next. We're going to select United States. Why? Because that's where we are. Language and time zone, we're going to pick New York. And US English, US English. Click Next. And we're going to enter a password. We're going to have to do one reboot, so yes, you need a password. Click Next. And just going to click Next through this. I'm going to skip, so I don't need to do Wi-Fi because I have it plugged into Cat 5. We're going to click Next for updating the software, and then I am going to speed through this process. Once it's done downloading and updating, I got the focus fixed. So once that's done, we're going to click Reboot. And we're ready to reboot. So just click OK. And I'm a little slow here. Wait for the mouse movement. Gonna click OK. Right about now. Almost now. And we click OK. And we reboot. Okay, and our desktop is going to be coming up in a moment. Here we are. Once the desktop is up, you're going to need a terminal window, and that's going to be at the top edge of the screen there. That's that little black box with the, looks like greater than sign on it. So because I'm lazy, I'm going to type in sudo bash, so I don't have to type sudo before each command. So here we're going to type rpi-eeprom-update, and that's going to update it to the latest version. And then we're going to do the same thing with a space -a on the end. And then we're going to type in reboot, and you can eject the disk, or eject the micro SD card, because we will not need it any longer. Okay, what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be copying our files onto our drive. And I'm highlighting this here to show you the correct drive. It's the one labeled UEFI, and we need to know it's dev disk 4. So we're going to CD to the directory where our firmware master is. And then we're going to grab the command from the PDF, and we're going to edit the command so it works right for my directory structure. They had you doing it on the desktop. I'm just doing it here. Feel free, if you know what you're doing, do as you wish. So my directory was .boot, and dot means the current directory, and /boot is the subdirectory. So I removed everything that had kernel *.image. So anything that was kernel and anything after that, that's the wildcard. The next command is a copy command, and again, I'm going to edit it for my directory structure. So it's going to be .boot, so it's doing a copy and a recursive copy. And I'm just showing you a listing, a directory listing ls, and that there's a boot directory underneath where I am, the current directory that is. And we're going to grab the next command, which is going to be another copy, recursive copy, but I'm going to have to edit it. And I'm going to have to remove desktop, and we're going to have to go up one directory. So the dot dot brings us up one directory and then down to the RPI for UFI firmware directory. And so that copied over to the micro SD card. And now I'm going to show you what's in the micro SD card. It's called UEFI, and these are all the files that we copied over. And we're going to eject the micro SD card and install it into the Raspberry Pi 4. Okay, so now that we got the micro SD card with the firmware on it, and that's what's going to enable us to boot into the UEFI installer. So power up, press escape. Now we're going to do some final configurations here. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be going to Device Manager, Raspberry Pi Configuration, and then we're going to disable the RAM limit. All right, we go to Advanced, sorry, and then we're going to change that value to disabled. And hit function F10 on the keyboard, which is like a normal keyboard hitting F10, but since I have the small keyboard, that's how you exit out. I'm going to press Y to approve the changes. And then we're going to escape back. Select Continue to reboot to get all of the changes set, and then as the Raspberry Pi reboots, you're going to press escape to get back into the menu system. And if you're unsuccessful, you will get a screen that looks like this. So I'm going to hit Control-Alt-Delete again, and I'm going to press escape to get back into the menu system. Okay, we're at the main menu. We're going to select Device Manager. Once in Device Manager, we're going to go to Console Preference Selection. We're going to select Serial, and then we're going to hit Function F10 and Y. And then we're going to back up the menu tree with Escape, and we're going to be going down to Raspberry Pi Configuration. Once there, we're going to be going to Display Configuration. We're going to select 800 by 600, 1024 by 768. We're going to leave native resolution there. And we're going to press Function F10 and Y to confirm. And then we're going to escape back out. Up the menu tree, we're going to go up to CPU configuration. We're just going to verify that it's default in 1500. That's correct. Nothing to do here. We're going to write our VMvisor ISO file to the thumb drive, the 8 gig thumb drive that I labeled VMvisor. We're going to use Etcher for this. So you say flash another, change, select the VMware Visor ISO file, open. It's okay, we understand. Select the target, not the red one, with the 8 gig thumb drive. Click flash, enter your password, and we will be off to the races flashing. And it's going to unmount, and then we're going to remove it, and we're going to insert it into the Raspberry Pi. Now that it's in the Pi, okay, so we have that's the 64 gig drive that VMware is going to live on. That's the micro SD card that we're booting from. It's just handling the EUFI boot from now on. We're at the main menu, and we're going to have to click Continue to reboot the Pi, and basically that sets all of the changes that we've made. We're also going to have to hit Escape to get back into the menu system. We're going to have to select Boot Manager, and we're going to have to select the boot device, which I know it's not the SanDisk Cruiser. It's going to be the last one on the list, just process of elimination. I've done it once before, so I know. Once we hit this, it's going to do the installation of ESXi. So I'm backing off the screen. You can see it's bringing up all of the progress information. You see the installer loading. Similar, but not exactly like any other Linux boot. And you see the different processes kicking off. And just at the top of the screen there, you can see 7.9 gigs of memory. That's right, it's a Raspberry Pi 4 with 8 gigs of RAM. I just think that's cool as all get out. I am very excited about this, and I'm excited to do some more videos with clustering and vMotion and see how that all works. So this is going to take a little bit of time. And once this is done, we're going to be doing the configuration. Okay, and we're at the screen where it's going to be booting into ESXi. All right, so we're going to hit Enter to continue, F11 to accept the license. It's looking for available devices. We're going to select the SanDisk Cruiser, that 57 gig drive, not the 8 gig drive above it. That's the one we want to write the ESXi software to. We're going to hit Enter on the console to continue, US default enter. We're going to enter a password. It's not an overly complex password, but you have to have some funny characters in there. So type it in, hit Tab, type it in, click Enter to continue, the passwords match. Now, I have this plugged into Ethernet. You're going to hit F11 to continue. And it's going to go through the installation process. On systems like this, I do it hardwired over Ethernet as opposed to Wi-Fi. It just eliminates problems of entering passwords. And I've actually never done ESXi with Wi-Fi, so I can't be certain that it would work. So this installs pretty rapidly. I'm impressed. And we're getting towards the end of the installation. Okay, and we're going to have to click Enter to reboot. Gives us a little warning that it's going to take some time to complete. It's not a long amount of time, it just takes a little bit of time. Okay, and we're in the reboot. I've got to select the right drive, so we're going to go to Boot Manager, and we're going to select the SanDisk Cruiser. And we're going to boot off of that. Now in the future, I haven't booted it any further than this. So if you do a reboot in the future and don't make that the permanent selection as far as the boot order, you're going to have to go back and do that selection. Okay, so we're coming up on the boot again. And the system is coming up. And momentarily, in a browser, I will show you ESXi running. So we're still waiting. All the different processes, the progress bar down below. We're getting close. And I apologize that this is video of a screen and I don't have an HDMI direct recording. I'm getting there. That'll happen soon. And the services are starting up. So I was all excited about this because 2 years ago, 2018 VMworld, I was there and they made this announcement and they didn't have anything for me to walk home with. So, I mean, if it was just a URL where I could have downloaded on the Raspberry Pi, I would have been very excited. And there we are, that's our IP address. So now if we pop open a browser and we type in that IP address, we are going to be able to administer our newly minted ARM-based ESXi running on a Raspberry Pi with 8 gig. So I'm very, very excited about this. So I've got the IP address in, not exactly correct yet. So it's 116, you hit enter. You're going to have to go advanced, and then down below there's got a link that says proceed, and it tells you it's unsafe. That's because the SSL certificate is not a valid SSL cert. So you're going to type in your username, which is root, and your password, which is the password you typed in momentarily back in time. It's going to log you in, and okay, so it's going to have, this is the customer, whatever it phones home and sends VMware information. But you can see it's the ESXi ARM Fling. It's good for 180 days. You got 6 months of this fun. And that is what it looks like. So guys, enjoy. If you want to see further videos about installing VMs, clustering, etc., please let me know down in the comments. If you have any issues, please let me know. I'm happy to help you out, and I hope you have a very successful install of ESXi on your Raspberry Pi 4. You can do it with 4 gig or 8 gig, better with the 8 gig because you can do more stuff.